Hi everyone. Today we're going to look at some of these problems that deal with how to find the midline of sinusoidal functions from graphs. Again, sinusoidal functions are functions that look like the sine function basically, that behave like the sine function, which are periodic, right? They repeat. And they have this very repetitive type of wave shape. And it just continues repeating on and on and on. All right, so here in this picture, in this graph, we have below is the graph of a trigonometric function. It has a minimum point at negative 5.5, comma negative 5.5, and it has a maximum point at 11.4, comma 11.4. The question it asks is, what is the midline equation of the function? Okay, so first we have to know what the definition of a midline is. All right, the definition of a midline goes like this: midline. Okay. The midline is a horizontal line which lies halfway between the max and min. Okay, so it is a horizontal line which is halfway between the max and the min. So let's go back here. Here's the maximum, here's the minimum. What is the equation of a horizontal line that goes halfway, that's halfway between them? So this is the vertical distance from here to here, right? Then there's got to be a horizontal line that cuts that vertical distance right in half, okay? So they want to know what that line is. So let's find it, okay? So we have the maximum point is at, what did I just say? It was 11.4, okay? 11.4, comma 11.4. And the minimum point is at negative 5.5, comma negative 5.5. We are looking for half the vertical distance, which means we have to look at these coordinates here, the y coordinates, correct? We have to find the middle number between these two, all right? And how do you find the middle number here? Well, let's find the average, right? So let's find the average of these two numbers. So how do you find the average? Well, just add them up and then divide it by 2. And let's just divide it by 2. Well, that gives you, this I believe is 5.9, correct? 5.9 divided by 2. And 5.9 divided by 2, of course, it goes into twice. And then 2 point, I believe it's roughly 85, right? So 2 goes in 5 twice. And then 2 goes into 18 9 times, 9.5 times, correct? 2.95. All right, guys? So there you have it. So therefore, the equation of the midline is going to be y equals 2.95. Remember, all horizontal lines have the equation y equals. All vertical lines have the equation x equals, correct? In this case, it's a horizontal line, so it's going to have y equals. So let's take a look, 2.95. Okay, 2.95. And that is correct. Okay, on to the next problem. Same idea, right? We are looking for, we have a function, we have a trigonometric function, we're given a max point, and we're given an amplitude here, an amplitude of 1.8. What is the midline of this function? Well, again, in order for us to answer this function, we need to know what an amplitude is. So let's go now to this, and let's get our second definition. Okay, let's clear the board. And now let's write an amplitude. Okay, amplitude. What is the definition of an amplitude? Amplitude is the vertical distance, or the distance vertical, okay, the vertical distance from the midline to the max or min. That's it. Okay? Amplitude. It's the distance, the vertical distance from the midline to the max or the min. All right? So let's see what information they give us here in this problem. Here they give us the max point, which is at negative pi over 3, 2. So they give us the point, the max is at negative pi over 3, 2. All right, and what else do they give us? And they tell us the amplitude is 1.8. Okay, whoops, what just happened? Okay, and the amplitude is 1.8. Okay, so if the max point is at negative pi over 3, 2, and the amplitude is 1.8, that would mean, I'll just draw a little graph here. Just give you an example. Let's say that's the graph. Let's say this is now our midline. It's a horizontal line right smack in between the max and the min. Here's the max. Here's the min. Correct? Here's min. Here's max. Here's our midline. So where is the amplitude? The amplitude is right here, folks. The amplitude is this distance right here. There's your amplitude. Okay? It's the vertical distance from the midline to the max. But it could also be the vertical distance from the midline to the min, here. That's also the amplitude. Why? Because since the midline is exactly halfway between the max and the min, if we were to take the vertical distances from the midline to the max, should be equal to the vertical distance from the midline to the min. Why? Again, midline is halfway, right? It's always halfway between the max and the min. All right, guys? So we know the amplitude is 1.8. Okay, so the amplitude is 1.8 here. Well, it's going to be 1.8 down here as well, right? What's the question asking? Well, they're asking what is the midline? Where is the midline? So if we were to take the y coordinate of the maximum value right here, and we were to go down 1.8 units, we would hit the midline. So again, since this is at 2, if we take 2, which is the y coordinate of the max right here, and we subtract 1.8. So from here at 2, we go down 1.8, we should now be at the midline, which is going to be at 0.2. Okay, so here it is. That should be our midline. So let's check. 0.2. And that is correct. Okay. Just do a couple more. Here we have another graph, and now they give us the maximum and minimum. So here's the graph, here's the maximum point, here's the minimum point. What's the midline? Again, they're looking for a line that goes halfway between the max and the min. So let's find the average of the two y coordinates. All right, so the y coordinate is negative 2.2 for the max. All right, so let's clear this board. And let's do it. So we have a max point at 1/4 pi, negative 2.2. Hmm? 1/4 pi. Negative 2.2. And we have our minimum point at 3/4 pi and y coordinate is at negative 8.5. Okay, and we want the midline, right? So again, the x coordinates really have nothing to do with the midline because the midline is halfway. It's the halfway point for the y coordinates of the max and the min. So we have to find the halfway or the average of these two numbers. So y is equal to negative 2.2 plus negative 8.5. Add them up, divide by 2. We're finding the average, right? So that's going to be equal to, that's going to be 10.7, I believe. Negative 10.7 divided by 2, which then gives us what? Negative 5.35, 5.2 goes into 7 3 times. And then, right? So there is our midline. Okay? Negative 5.35. Okay? We'll do one more. We have a function. We're given a minimum. We have a trig function. We're given a minimum point. And again, they tell us the amplitude is 1.1. Okay? So minimum point. Let's clear the board. So we have a minimum point this time. And that minimum point is sitting at negative 2, negative 5.2. It's a comma here. And we're given an amplitude, which is, I believe, 1.1, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, 1.1. Okay, so again, this is the minimum point, right? The distance, here's the midline. Okay, distance from the minimum point, again, a graph may look something like this, correct? So here's our max, here's our min, okay? Here's our amplitude, correct? Here's our max. Here's the amplitude again, and we know these amplitudes are equal, right? So if we want to find the midline here, we just need to take the minimum and add the amplitude to the y coordinate, right? So take the y coordinate of the minimum, which is a negative 5.2, and we're going to add 1.1 to it to get up to the midline. So y is equal to negative 5.2 plus 1.1. And that's going to give us negative 4.1, I believe. Okay, and that should be our middle. So let's go and check. Negative 4.1, negative 4.1. And that is correct. All right, guys? All right, take care.